This video was recorded on the 7th of May, 2022. This was my second inspection of these two Langstroth hives. Last week, I was sufficiently pleased with the progress that they'd been making that I went ahead and put the second deep box on both of these hives, with the understanding that it might lead to some chimneying. So this week, one of the things I was interested to see was whether or not that had taken place. And, also whether they had made a great deal of progress in the deep boxes. So right off the bat, started pulling out frames. The first frame I found was empty. That did not surprise me. The second was likewise empty. The third had a whole bunch of drawn out comb, and I was quite pleased. And it looked like, I think that's nectar that they're putting in there already. I think the reason that it's transparent is because it's coming from the sugar water that I've been giving them. So there's some more on the far side of that particular frame. It's worth noting that I had a lot of camera problems during this recording. I think it's due to overheating. I don't know that I'll be able to do a great deal about that, but there's quite a bit in here to see. So here again, this is another frame that was completely empty a week ago that is now largely drawn out, and I was blown away by how much progress they had made in a single week. The sugar water makes all the difference. There again, another frame, beautifully drawn out. And this week I was continuing, at least initially, to make the mistake of holding frames parallel to the ground. There's a frame where they've started to make some progress. Not very deep, but still something. A mostly empty frame, and an empty frame. So I scoot all these back together. Didn't find the queen up here, wasn't expecting to. I don't think I saw any eggs up here at all in this one. I believe what I was showing there was the swarm cell, or because there was a little bit of a, or no, that wouldn't have been a swarm cell. It was just like some burr comb on the bottom there. I saw some interesting burr comb in the hives this week. So here we are now in the bottom deep. You can see very easily which 5 frames were the nucleus that we started with. I had some difficulty getting the first frame to come out. I wound up going to the far frame first, which is still empty, which did mean that I was correct to be worried about chimneying. So it wasn't pictured in this video, but I wound up putting one of the drawn out frames from the top down there in the bottom in that side to try to encourage them to fill the frame that got neglected. So here you can see some different colors of pollen or nectar, and then I'm pointing with my thumb there at some capped honey. So that is what honey looks like when it is more or less ready to go. But these are the deeps, so we won't be harvesting any honey from down here. So this is a whole bunch of capped brood, and then there's a whole bunch of honey around the top. There's lots to be happy about here. And then I zoomed in a little bit here to try to show you some larvae. There will be some better shots later where you'll get to see some of the same. If you go back and you pause, you might be able to see some larvae. They look like little white grubs, and they're curled up in a little circle in some of those cells. There's a whole bunch of larvae here. If you don't see them at first, you might have to go back and take another look. Pausing might help. I've tried to do a little bit of editing magic to make the things I'm describing easier to see in this video, but it's still tricky. So I think what I was trying to show here was just this crazy burr comb that they were making on the bottom of this frame. I don't think I removed this. Maybe I should have, but I did not. And you can really see the difference in the comb. This is comb that was drawn out using natural resources, and it's a lot darker than the comb made with sugar. I think that's more capped brood on both of these frames. So the population is going to increase rather quickly in this hive within the next 10 days. Now this one that I picked up with the frame grabber, this one has the queen on it. It might be on the other side. She'll have a yellow dot on her back, and she'll be quite obvious. Yes, there she is. She's in the center, a little bit to the left. So having found the queen and seeing a whole bunch of larvae, a whole bunch of capped brood, not seeing any signs of disease, seeing that they've got food stores, I could seal this right up right away if I wanted to. But I went and continued to look at some of the frames in here. Somewhere about this point, the thumb, I think was it my left or my right thumb? I think it was my right thumb became exposed. Yeah, you can see I'm messing with it here, I think. My gloves ripped and my thumb was exposed, and I carried on, inspected the rest of this hive and also the entire second hive with that thumb ripped, and it wasn't a big deal. I kept it away from the bees a little bit, but honestly, I think I could have gotten away with bare hands during this inspection. So here, I think we're looking at some more capped honey and some more capped brood. Good stuff. On both sides of that frame, I think, actually. Some more capped honey. And let's see, what are we looking at here? More larvae. That's a pretty good shot right there. There's some eggs as well. If you go back and take a look towards the end of that shot, that's where I should have paused. Later in the video, I've got a spot where I pause the video to try to show some eggs, and or I have it like at slideshow speeds anyway, and right there was some stuff that I think was lost when the camera overheated when I was reassembling the hive. Not a big deal. Nothing tremendously interesting happened. Here I pulled out the like corrugated board that goes in above the, or excuse me, below the screen and the screened bottom board, and there's some there's all of the refuse from the hive, a whole bunch of pollen that got dropped. Interesting to see that stuff. So here we are at the other hive. This is the first time I've shown anything to do with this hive, I think. In the past, it's all been the first hive. And I'm, here we're pulling off the feeder. Getting the frame holder in place, and we're going to start working these frames. First one, empty, not tremendously surprising. Here we go. The second one has some drawn out comb, a little bit. The third one has even more drawn out comb. And it's got this crazy burr comb here that connected these two frames, and I went ahead and pulled that off. You can see some burr comb, some bees hanging out on it. I looked at this thing later, and I determined that there were actually some eggs in there. So, whoops. But that, those structures can't. I can't allow weird stuff like that. It makes inspecting very difficult if they're just going to connect all of the frames together. So right here, I think I'm zooming in to try to help you see some eggs. There's some eggs in kind of the upper left-hand corner. In some of those against the black, you can kind of make out a little bit of a white smear at the very back. It's quite hard to see. I think I picked the wrong frame to try to show it, but that's what you're looking at there. If you go back and take another look, maybe you'll be able to make out some eggs. The black background really helps. It's they're quite hard to see. Now imagine having a screen over your face. It was a little bit more reasonable temperature-wise today. So at this point, I've seen the queen, and I pulled that frame out. There she is. So we found the queen in this frame, or in this hive, rather. Our work here is basically done. I've seen tons of eggs. I can only assume that they're doing well as far as brood down below. I have no reason to believe that they're not doing as well as the other hive. I probably could have opened up the lower deep, but I didn't feel like messing with them. I felt fairly confident that they were doing well. So yeah, quite impressed what they were able to accomplish in this second deep in just 1 week with the aid of the sugar water. And looking forward to seeing how they do this coming week. If they carry on at a pace like this, I will be forced to put the honey supers on even earlier than I had initially anticipated. So, good problem to have. And I think once this frame gets slotted back in, that's where I lost the video the second time. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.